Paper Mario fans are usually pretty divided. There's the people who only like the first 30 games, the people who only like the modern 30 games, or the people who like all of them. There's usually no in between. Well, apparently a lot of people hate Super Paper Mario, but that's for another video. When you talk about Paper Mario, there's usually one game that's left out of the conversation. Most of the time, that's Color Splash. Color Splash released in 2016 on the Wii U, which was 1 year before the Switch came out. That's probably why not a lot of people remember this game. But whenever it is brought up, it's usually not positively. People don't really care for this game. They don't really like it even if they have played it. But why is that? And is all the criticism true? Well, we'll be finding the answer to that question in this video. One day, Mario and Peach receive a letter from Prism Island, and in the letter, there's a toad who's drained of its color, which is pretty creepy. They sail to Prism Island, and when they go there, the entire island's deserted. Turns out Bowser was the culprit to this, and Mario has to find the 6 big paint stars to beat Bowser. This definitely isn't the most deep story of all time, but it's honestly really good. Bowser isn't the villain here, the black paint is. The black paint basically corrupted him, so you have to try and rescue Bowser and destroy the black paint. Sure, Bowser is the villain and the final boss, but again, even though we took Princess Peach, Bowser really isn't the real villain. It's still not that deep of a plot, but it's somewhat interesting how the game handles it. You don't find out about it till the end of the game, when Bowser's talking to you after Mario somewhat beats him. Then the black paint retakes him over, and the second phase begins. Again, it's not a deep story, but honestly, for Color Splash, it doesn't really have to be. Color Splash has a very strange battle system. It's basically a follow-up to Sticker Star, but instead of stickers, you have to use cards. There's a wide variety of cards to use, such as Fire Flowers, Ice Flowers, Hammers, Jumps, all that. To be able to increase your attack damage, you have to paint your cards. You have a limited supply of paint, and can refill it on the Overworld or with 1-up mushrooms. This is where the criticism of Color Splash really starts to come into play. This battle system is pretty tedious. You have to select a card, paint it if it already isn't painted, and swipe it up on the screen. It's way more work than just pressing a few buttons in the past games. But honestly, I do like this battle system. Sure, there's not XP, but it is pretty unique, even if it does kind of flow off Sticker Star. There's also things that return, but they aren't nearly as cryptic as Sticker Star, but we'll get into that later. Another big problem is that there's no XP for beating enemies. You kinda just get coins and move on with your life. But there is somewhat of an alternative. Hammer scraps are kind of like XP. By collecting enough hammer scraps by defeating enemies, you can upgrade your paint maximum. This is pretty useful when you paint a lot of cards. So while this battle system isn't perfect in the slightest, it's honestly tolerable. Sure, there's no partners, but we do have enemy cards, which are kinda like partners. You can't play as them, they only have one real attack, and they kinda just tank hits for you and die. But it's nice how you can have basically every single enemy, including the bosses, as a partner. Depending on how much you paint their card, that's how much HP they have. It's honestly a pretty unique idea, and I hope to see this concept return in some form. Well, that's enough about the battle system. Let's move on to the overworld design. After playing Thousand Year Door, I was kind of underwhelmed with the overworld. They're kind of just big hallways, there's not much to them. But Color Splash honestly has some of the best overworld design in the series, aside from the Origami King. They are a bit linear, but they're huge open levels, which are honestly really fun to walk through. There's plenty of puzzles, unpainted spots, and secrets for you to find. A lot of levels, especially levels like Plum Park, are just super fun to walk through. There's usually a lot going on, a lot of puzzles for you to solve. For example, in Sunglow Ridge, Bowser drops an entire black paint bomb, so you can't advance. But Huey just tells you to close your eyes and gets rid of it immediately. And in the final level, you see the factory where they make these bombs and how they detonate them. This is honestly just pretty cool. The overworld design is just very memorable. Vortex Island especially is so cool and unique, being a parallel dimension of the regular world. There's also a level where you go inside of Mario 3, and a level where it's just a giant coliseum. Some levels are short, but they don't need to be long, they're still really fun, and there's multiple paint stars in a lot of them. And there really isn't that much backtracking in this game. The Thousand Year Door and Sticker Star definitely have way more backtracking than this game. I also had a lot of fun with the puzzles. The things aren't as cryptic as they were in Sticker Star. They really aren't that tedious to find. You really won't have a hard time with the bosses because finding them isn't as difficult. So the overworld is great, what else is there? Visually, the game looks amazing. Being the first HD Paper Mario game, it looks awesome for the Wii U. And honestly, I really like the art style. Although a lot of people don't like the paperized aspect of it, I think it suits the game well. I'm not the biggest fan of the white outline around Mario, but it's not that bad. I do like the way the Origami King looks a bit better, but the art style of this game is really good. I really don't have any issues with it. I do understand why people don't like it, and how it is a bit too paperized, but it's not really that bad. I honestly really like the Birdo design and the designs of the Koopalings. It's nice to see them have a smooth transition to paper form. The writing has to be some of the best in the entire series. Huey is the most memorable character in the Paper Mario series and has some of the best lines of dialogue. Like, this game just doesn't stop being funny, and he even knows when to get serious, like the Shy Guy story about just being a normal Shy Guy and dying to Mario. When the game gets serious, and when it gets sad and knows its place. It doesn't just throw random gags during a serious moment, it actually has pretty thoughtful writing behind it. And sure, there aren't original characters in this game, but it is made up by the fact that each character is somewhat unique and has something going on. Like, the shady Sledge Bro is hilarious in this game, and even though he's just a Sledge Bro with shades, it's still really funny and cool. You don't need original character designs to have a well-written character. And there aren't really that many original bosses, but there are the Koopalings, which is the first time we see them in a Paper Mario game. Their writing, especially Morton's, is pretty funny. Their boss battles are also just really fun in general. Honestly, I'd say that the bosses are some of the best in the series. And it's not just because they're the Koopalings, just because they do something different. For example, you have to cook a steak in this game by beating it, seasoning it, and grilling it. And you have to present it to a Toad who's kinda like Gordon Ramsay. The Koopaling battles are also really fun. I mean, just look at Ludwig. He starts off in a giant sub, then goes to a submarine, and you have to use thing cards in a really unique way. But Roy is definitely my favorite battle in the entire game. He doesn't have anything unique like a giant sub, but he does use paint against you. He could steal your paint and use it to manipulate how fast, slow, or just how the battle goes in general. Honestly, the only downside that I can really think of is that it's not as open as the Thousand Year Doors. You have many more attacks, and you can either one-shot the boss in the Thousand Year Door or do a challenge. In Color Splash, there really isn't that much freedom. You kinda just attack till he's weak, use a thing card, and then finish him off. There's really not much to it. But the bosses are still just fun in this game. So I think that there's one sentence that sums up Color Splash. It's a really fun game with a mediocre battle system. It may be lacking the original characters and original locations like the Thousand Year Door or Super Paper Mario, but it does have a lot going for it. It's full of charm and it's really special. It actually does something different unlike Sticker Star, and it really succeeds at doing it. The battle system is definitely not that great, but the bosses, the writing, the gameplay, it's all immaculate. I understand why people don't like it that much though, because the battle system does get really tiring, and I could see people not really like the level design and much prefer 64 or TTYD, and that's okay. We all like something different with Paper Mario, and with the Thousand Year Door remake on Switch, it definitely gives more players an option. If you really like Color Splash, play the Origami King. It's pretty much a sequel to this. But if you like the classic games, then play the Thousand Year Door remake on Switch. It's the best of both worlds. Do I hope we get another game like Color Splash? Not really. But I also don't hope that we get another game like the Thousand Year Door. I think that if the developers take the best of the modern and classic games, they can make something really good in the next Paper Mario game. But for now, I'm just gonna enjoy Color Splash. And if you haven't tried it, I'd recommend you do so. And that about wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed, remember to comment, like, and subscribe. If you want to share your opinions with me personally, or just talk to me, join my Discord. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.